laying into one guy while everybody else watches? And you wanna know what's wrong with me? I'd rather die. So bring it on!
Movies and television are built around heroes. From the bright optimism of Superman to the grounded moral codes of modern prestige TV protagonists, the genre usually runs on the same emotional engine. Someone powerful choosing to do the right thing. It reassures us that if extraordinary people existed, they would protect the rest of us. But what if the extraordinary had no more interest in us than ants under their boots? The answer to that is Homelander, a character who might be the most chilling villain television has produced in years, not because he hides in darkness, but because he truly believes himself to be the hero.
Dad.
What's he doing out here?
Aren't you guys friends?
While you can watch our other videos going into more detail about other big players, the long and the short of The Boys is that it's a show based on the wildly successful comic book from writer Garth Ennis and artist Derek Robertson. While Ennis is no stranger to deconstructing superheroes and the tropes around them, The Boys might be his magnum opus on the reality of what would happen if humans were gifted superpowers. To understand why Homelander feels so uniquely disturbing, it helps to look at how the show constructs the world around him. Superheroes in The Boys aren't lone guardians patrolling the night, they're corporate assets. Their missions are scheduled like product launches, their rescues choreographed for maximum publicity, and their public personas are managed by teams of marketing executives and crisis consultants.
Destiny knocks on the girl next door's door, and she answers to fight for truth and justice side by side with her hero.
The system works because image matters more than reality. As long as the public believes the heroes are good, the details underneath don't really matter. Homelander is the ultimate expression of that logic. He isn't simply powerful, he's carefully manufactured to represent the ideal hero. The cape, the smile, the speeches about protecting the innocent, it's all part of the brand architecture built around him. But the show quickly reveals that Homelander's story is very different from the mythology the public believes. Unlike most superheroes, he doesn't have an origin story shaped by love, family, or sacrifice. He doesn't come from a small town or a tragic accident that inspired him to do good. His true origins begins in a laboratory. Raised by scientists as part of experiments with Compound V, Homelander was never given a normal childhood. The people around him didn't treat him like a person learning how to navigate the world. They treated him like a prototype. Season 4's Wisdom of the Ages in particular paints a gruesome picture of carrying trauma. The result is someone who grew up with unimaginable power, but almost no emotional foundation to understand it. He wasn't taught empathy or restraint. He was taught performance and obedience at all cost. This upbringing creates the psychological contradiction that defines the character. Homelander wants to be admired because admiration is the closest thing he has ever experienced to love. But admiration isn't the same thing as love, and deep down he knows it.
Well, you can help me understand something, Deep, because, I don't know, maybe I'm stupid. Am I stupid, Deep?
That gap between validation and genuine connection becomes the core of Homelander's psychology. The show repeatedly frames him as someone who is emotionally incomplete, someone who learned how to mimic human warmth without ever fully understanding it. In Season 1, when we're introduced to one of Homelander's more YouTube-unfriendly kinks, there are layers to what could be seen as simply shocking. On the surface, there's the obvious shock value. Then, there's the quick and easy take of Homelander's immaturity. Of course, there's the more kink-based line of thinking, but there's also the idea that Homelander is an all-American guy. Homelander is an archetype. He knows how to comfort people after disasters while posing for the cameras and waving to crowds. But these moments feel slightly off, because the performance is being delivered by someone who studied human behavior rather than lived it. A lot of that effect comes from the performance of Anthony Starr, whose portrayal of Homelander is built on subtle tension rather than constant intimidation. Starr doesn't play him like a traditional supervillain. There's no theatrical rage or grand declarations of evil. Instead, there's a carefully controlled calmness that feels almost too controlled. The smiles linger a moment longer than they should, while the pauses in conversation stretch just enough to become uncomfortable. It creates the sense that something unstable is always sitting just beneath the surface, and the show gradually proves that instinct right. One of the most fascinating aspects of Homelander as a villain is how small the triggers for his violence can be. Traditional antagonists escalate conflict strategically. They lash out when their goals are threatened or when the stakes demanded. Homelander escalates emotionally and recklessly. In Season 2, Homelander quickly kills a doppelganger, Soup, who tried to seduce him as both milk-bearing Madeline Stillwell and then Homelander himself. Instead of using this Soup's power to his advantage in some sort of brilliant plan, Homelander simply breaks his neck and he says,
I don't need anyone.
This is where the boys separate Homelander from many other villains in the superhero genre. He isn't trying to conquer the world. He already occupies the highest position in it. What he wants is something much less stable. Affirmation that he deserves that position. When that affirmation disappears, the consequences can be catastrophic. Homelander's effectiveness as a villain is how thoroughly he is embedded in the systems around him. He isn't operating outside society, he's at the center of it. He appears in movies produced by Vought, he stars in marketing campaigns, he is a cultural touchpoint, giving interviews and speeches that shape public opinion. The most dangerous man on the planet is also one of the most famous celebrities.
Let me say it again, Cam. I may be a superhero, but I'm also just a man who fell in love with the wrong woman.
That celebrity status creates a strange kind of protection. People don't want to believe their heroes are monsters, so even when cracks start appearing in Homelander's image, the public instinctively looks for ways to explain them away. Homelander benefits from that protection for a long time. As long as Vaught's public relations machine can keep the narrative under control, his darker impulses remain hidden behind carefully crafted messaging. But the longer the series runs, the clearer it becomes that the system is losing its grip. That shift becomes even more apparent when the broader world of the franchise expands through Gen V. The spin-off explores the next generation of superheroes being trained within the same corporate infrastructure, and Homelander's presence looms over that environment even when he isn't physically there. He represents the ultimate outcome of the system, a hero who has started to realize that the people managing him don't actually control him anymore. When we get to Homelander's brief appearance in Gen V's Series 1 finale, it's a heartbreaking affirmation that for all the good our characters had accomplished, it was being simply and matter-of-factly dismantled. For most of his life, Homelander's handlers maintained influence by appealing to his needs for validation. They flattered him, reassured him, and reminded him how much the public loved him. There's always been a fundamental flaw in that strategy. Homelander is stronger than everyone around him. Eventually, someone with that kind of power is going to notice.
All right, you guys are the real heroes. God bless you.
And once he does, the balance between creator and creation begins to collapse. The character becomes even more compelling when placed opposite Billy Butcher, the series' primary human antagonist for the superhero system. On the surface, the dynamic seems straightforward. Butcher represents the people trying to expose corrupt superheroes, while Homelander represents the corrupt power structure they're fighting against. But the deeper the show explores these characters, the more complicated that distinction becomes. Butcher is driven by grief and revenge, emotions that push him toward increasingly ruthless decisions. The difference between Butcher and Homelander isn't moral purity, it's scale. Homelander possesses the power to act on every destructive impulse he has. Butcher spends most of the series trying to find a way to close that gap. That tension makes their rivalry one of the central beats of the boys. Both characters believe they're justified. Both are willing to cross lines to achieve their goals, but only one of them has the strength of a living weapon. The television version of Homelander becomes even more complex when compared to the original comic series. In the comics, Homelander is certainly frightening, but he's often portrayed more directly as a sociopathic villain. The adaptation adds layers of emotional instability and insecurity that make the character feel less like a caricature and more like a deeply damaged person spiraling towards something worse.
It's a shame that I've missed so much. I wish I could have raised you and taught you father to son.
Me too.
Instead of simply watching a monster cause destruction, viewers are forced to watch a human being gradually realize just how little anyone can do to stop him. And that realization might be the most terrifying element of the entire character. Because the ultimate horror of Homelander isn't just that he's violent, it's that he's starting to believe the rules no longer apply to him. In a world where that fiction inches closer and closer to reality, that idea becomes more terrifying than milk kink laser-eyed monsters. The most chilling aspect of Homelander isn't whether he's a hero or villain, it's his realization that it doesn't matter, at least not to him. So what do you think? Who are some other villains that terrified you through complete apathy? Let us know down in the comments below, and as always, thank you for watching.